I recently used FaceTime to interview Michelle, who is a licensed professional counselor working in private practice in Virginia. Because she is in private practice, she is also a small business owner and operator. She attained her undergraduate degree, majoring in psychology with a minor in sociology from the University of South Dakota. She followed that with the Master of Science from the University of Nebraska, which required 48 credit hours. Upon moving to Virginia, she took online courses at Liberty University and Marymount University to accomplish an additional 12 credit hours. I asked her about her experience at Liberty, and she described how the program worked well for her because it was easy to stay on track with her studies, in part because of the deadlines of each week's work. She observed that the program is good for an individual who is self-motivated. We discussed the process she went through to become a licensed professional counselor, and she explained that it was a 3-year process that included 4,000 hours of work, of which 2,000 must include client contact and 200 hours of supervision. She worked for 3 years for Prince William County at a group home for boys, which she considered invaluable experience, and it also provided her with supervision. As a counselor, she averages meeting with 28 people per week, and she accepts all ages, with her youngest client currently being 10 years of age and her oldest being 69 years of age. There is no specific area of specialization for her practice, but many of her adult clients are dealing with anxiety, and many of her younger clients are experiencing the symptoms of ADHD or autism. The process of meeting with a client begins with an initial assessment and development of a treatment plan, with Michelle typically meeting with a client for 4 meetings before reassessment. Her first meeting includes viewing a foundational video that teaches about CBT, and she observed that a person does not have a feeling that is not preceded by a thought. I asked how long she usually meets with an individual, and she explained that it depends on the client and the circumstances. Younger clients usually meet with her for a duration of 3 to 5 years, and adults typically meet with her for a duration of 2 years. However, she does have some long-term clients who deal with mental health conditions such as bipolar, and she would continue to see those clients beyond 2 years, but on a more extended schedule, such as meeting once every 3 months. We discussed that she, of course, does not prescribe medication, but that she does work closely with physicians and psychiatrists under whom her clients are receiving care. And Michelle uses a holistic approach in providing services for her clients. When I asked, she estimated that approximately 25% of her clients are not using prescription medication. As a counselor who is also a small business owner, the time Michelle spends meeting with clients is not her only duty. Her business is an LLC, and she operates her business with an office manager who handles phone calls, helps working with insurance companies, and as she said, chasing payments. Michelle handles the duties of billing and tracking of the financial aspects of her business, such as payroll and taxes, using QuickBooks and the services of a CPA. She described the challenges of accepting insurance and getting paneled with and the coordination of services for different insurance companies. There are also insurance companies that she would be out of network for that she may be able to accept, but typically approximately 80% of her work is within the insurance companies with which she is contracted. In addition to these duties, she is responsible for developing and maintaining a website and even mundane tasks like housekeeping of the office. I asked about her policy on bringing faith into the counseling setting. She described that she begins by encouraging clients to pursue a good balance of work, family, and faith. And if they ask, at that point, faith may be included in sessions. Michelle estimated that 65% of her clients are people of faith, and that she meets with people with a wide variety of perspectives, such as atheist, agnostic, Christian, Muslim, and Wiccan. She observed that people who are of faith experience quicker progress and healing. I asked what Michelle finds fulfilling about working as a counselor, and she said everything. She said that she is motivated by seeing the resiliency of people and their ability to change. She finds it very rewarding that her clients finally get to a point of being able to regulate their emotions, make changes for good in their lives, and experience peace and contentment. She observed that there is great power for change when an individual experiences a shift in their thought processes and realizes that they have worth. A comment that she made, which I found very compelling, was that we are all telling ourselves a story. And she asks, is that story one of joy or defeat? I asked what she found challenging in her work, and she observed that she has been in the field for 31 years and her practice for 16 and a half. She said the most important thing she has learned is to lean into her faith and not to rely on herself. However, she did comment that if there is a challenging area for her in practice, it is when issues of infidelity are raised in the counseling setting, and noted the connection to triggers in her personal history and childhood. She stated a belief that there are times that trauma does not go away, it just shifts. We discussed continuing education, and she shared that she pursues 21 hours of continuing education every year as a part of her licensing requirements, with 2 hours covering ethical topics. She is currently pursuing certification in EMDR therapy. I asked her for her recommendations to students pursuing a career in the field of counseling, and she was emphatic in advocating for completing a 4-year degree and working in the field for a time before continuing on with a master's degree. She observed that in her experience, many people who do not take time to work in the field first did not know what they were getting into, and that affected their long-term outcomes. She observed that in combination with learning about the work and pursuing a career, there is self-discovery that is typically a part of the initial stages of a counseling career. In other words, figuring out your own stuff and issues. Taking a break to work in the field before pursuing a master's, in Michelle's opinion, provides time to decide whether to continue in counseling and to address personal issues. This interview was a fantastic opportunity to learn about working in the field of counseling from a seasoned professional. Learning about her educational and vocational journey to becoming a counselor gave insight into the process of education, work, and licensing. Everything she shared provided a practical view of things that are currently conceptual ideas for me. Hearing her describe her experiences gave me a relatable account of what it's like to work as a counselor, run a business, and deal with individuals of many ages who are presenting with many different mental health issues. It was interesting to hear that CBT is an important part of her practice and how she uses it with her clients. When she shared about continuing education and that she is currently pursuing certification in EMDR therapy, It was an example of how the field of counseling is dynamic and changing, and continuing education really is vital to provide appropriate and responsive services for clients. In retrospect, I asked many questions, and the interview flowed like a really good conversation. But I know that there are other questions I would like to have explored. For example, my focus is to work with women, not children, families, or men. I would like to have heard more about what it was like for her to meet with such varied demographics and in which area or areas she feels the most proficient or comfortable. Michelle is a wise and compassionate woman who was honest about her journey and the rewards and challenges of working as a counselor. It was a pleasure to interview her, and I feel that from this experience, I gained valuable insight into the life of a professional counselor.